Welcome back to another video. What I wanted to talk about in this video is kind of interesting, and I'm curious if it's an experience that's unique to me or whether others have shared this experience. What I wanted to talk about today was what an interesting experience it was to what I've recently sort of started terming it as when I awoke for good, or I don't know how to put it. However, when it felt like my awakening had landed, and what I mean by that is that it was in my bones, it's in my cells. Like the awakening had happened. There was no question about it. That had happened. And as you will know, if you have also awakened, then you know that it's kind of like a slap in the face and you become aware of everything. And that is kind of what I wanted to talk about. The experience for me has been really interesting. So a lot of people will talk about awakening. And from what I've experienced is that you, and other people will probably corroborate this, you can have multiple awakenings during your life. And what that kind of really means in the large scheme of things is just really big aha moments. Like, for example, that your life is not just this thing that goes in this cycle and we don't have any control, for example, and that's just one small iota, you guys know. So what's really interesting, like I said, what I want to talk about in this short video is my experience having awakened, as I say, like more permanently. As in, I began to awaken. I guess I would say perhaps that I began my awakening journey in, let's just call it loosely, 2017. And over that, really my journey started way back when I was 8. However, in the more conscious scope of things, I started to really pursue and go after my path in somewhere around 2017, 2018. And then also during the pandemic, I found a very close-knit group of spiritual people online, and that massively, massively, massively contributed to my awakening, as well as unfortunately some traumas as well. However, ultimately, the overall experience was, great and resulted in a lot of growth, even though, yes, there was trauma that you compartmentalize and put on aside, I guess, if you're willing to take the good experiences, right? So there were many, and I did learn, oh my goodness, I learned so much during that time in such a consolidated amount of time, really. I learned so many things. So what I wanted to talk about specifically in this video was the particular odd experience that it's been like for me this time. I say this time, let's just call this permanent awakening stage, happened at about 2020. And then firmly integrated into me right around now, between, let's say, maybe the second half of 2023, between then and now. It's like settled into me, this being awake where, you are conscious all of the time, and that doesn't go away anymore. Like, I know that sounds strange out loud, perhaps to those of you who maybe you haven't awakened, or maybe you're halfway yourself. There is a point at which in your awakening journey where you kind of feel 1 foot in, 1 foot out of your old life, which is something, interestingly, I'm re-experiencing again now. At any rate, I feel that perhaps with everyone, I don't know, by all means, share your experiences in the comments. I'm curious if everyone, I'm sure everyone experiences this moment at a different point in their life. What I'm curious is does everyone experience this moment of like, which this is sort of a twofold video. One aspect of myself is that was interesting, and is the reason I made the video, is because when I found this peace that I now have within myself, which is much greater than any sense of peace I'd really felt before, than any sense of confidence that I knew before. When I found more inner peace within myself, a strange thing happened, and that's probably something similar to what the title of this video is. She mused to herself. Seriously though, it was something, because what I wanted to title, whatever this video is titled, know that what I myself wanted to title it was, I found peace, and then it got louder. Because I wanted people to be like, what? What do you mean? So again, I don't know what I've actually titled this. We'll see what I came up with in the end. However, that's what I wanted to call it, because that's exactly the odd thing that happened. And perhaps you're still like, what do you mean it got louder when you found inner peace? How does that work? That doesn't sound very peaceful. That's exactly the comedy of it. And that's exactly the thing that I'm experiencing, which I find almost comedic, but like borderline, I don't know, it's just interesting, is that though I have much more peace in my heart and in my soul on a daily basis, like I say that with not casually, you guys know the anxiety I also sometimes deal with. So it's no small pickings for me to say like that I feel a sense of peace and calmness within myself like never before. And also, somehow with that has come this very interesting sense that it got almost louder in my head. And when I say that, I don't want you to be like, girls hearing voices, she cray, woo! I mean, that's the thing of it. And that's sort of what I wanted to get at in this video, that, and I don't, please share your perspectives because I'd love to hear. My perspective of what I'm going through right now is, and it's kind of amusing and like I said, very interesting. What it's like in this moment for me in my head space, it's kind of like what I imagine it was like growing up with a lot of people's parents. Not so harsh. My that voice speaking to me is not, you know, criticizing me or saying bad things. However, oh my gosh, it is the most intense accountability partner for life that you could possibly imagine. Let me think if I can give you some goofy freaking examples of this. Here we go. I'll humiliate myself. I don't mind talking about toilet talk for a hot second, right? So, for example, if I go and I use the washroom and I'm there washing my hands, if God forbid I don't close the lid on the toilet immediately, what we will now be terming kind of goofily as the head police are right there to be like, the conscious police, the conscience, both the conscious and conscience police arrive in my head and go, and I did something like that in my other video. They'll genuinely, it's like those parenting type voices will arrive in my head and be like, you know better. They shake their head. They're like, I say they. This is what I mean. And my theory, and this is what I wanted to share sort of comedically about it, is that one, I think it's funny that with an increased sense of peace and calm and a sense of myself, with a greater sense of all those things, that what kind of happened in my head was on some level more of this. Was like this, I developed, I do not have DID, however, I sort of lightheartedly with respect say, it's as if I've developed a part that now I label as the monitor, who is like, she's genuinely like a freaking hall monitor. It's all the things like that. It's like, brush your teeth twice, you know, it's all the basic stuff that humans typically do, right? Like feeding themselves. And I don't know, I that's why I sort of jokingly, half lovingly call them the monitor. So although in the grand scheme, in the general sense of my life, things are much more peaceful, I also now have a lot more chatter because, and this is the part that I find slightly comedic about it, it's so odd for me because yes, I'm peaceful within myself, and also I have this part that literally will not let me get away with any shenanigans. And I don't mean obviously the funny type shenanigans, you guys, I mean like the example I just gave you, or things like brushing your hair, brushing your teeth, showering, the basic freaking stuff, which I have to say, just as a side personal note, really doesn't make me feel super smart. However, it is what is happening. And I wanted to share that because for whatever reason it is happening, it is kind of funny to me because, again, not to absolutely drive the point home, I am more peaceful within myself. I feel more home in my skin. I am talking a lot more truth, meaning allowing it to be expressed out, whereas my natural state previously was to keep this stuff to myself inside. Now it's externalizing, and it honestly feels very uncomfortable and also is amazing, generally speaking. And so it amuses and confuses both me that I now have, like, very much so a monitoring part of my brain which will not let me get away with anything. And I don't know what criteria exactly it's running on, because again, I jokingly but also very seriously say that it's monitoring little things. They're like little and also important. That sounds so strange. Things that are important though, like again, I mean, brushing your teeth is important. I guess putting the toilet seat down is apparently important. I guess that all comes down to one's level of comfort, at any rate. So I thought I'd share that comedic tidbit about awakening, that, you know, and also that it's okay to laugh at awakening, because, you know, it's sort of like people who don't enjoy fart noises and things like that. You know, I recently heard someone say that they were like, yeah, I don't know, it's a good metric for whether you should be friends with someone or not, whether they find fart jokes funny or fart noises funny at all. Like, if they don't, there's something wrong with their humor. And I thought that's more or less accurate. That tracks. Anyway, tangents aside, it has genuinely, although I am more peaceful and grounded and kind of quiet within myself, the guiding voices of some sort in my head have gotten louder. So I thought I'd share that comedic tidbit, and also to share that if you're going through that for whatever reason, know that you're 100% not alone. Hi, hello, I'm experiencing it too. So I send you guys so much love. If you do know anyone that this message would help, please, by all means, share it with them. That really helps me out. Subscribe, as obviously that is the number one thing that helps me out as a creator, to get the message out to those who need to hear it. And last but not least, if you, my gorgeous spirit soul, need any support or coaching, please don't hesitate to reach out at this email, where it would be my pleasure to serve you in whatever way I can. Have a beautiful and a blessed rest of your day or night whenever you're seeing this, and I will see you gorgeous cats in the next one. Namaste and much love. Bye. You shouldn't be friends with someone, they didn't say shouldn't, but integrated, I guess you could say. How do I even explain this? It is this. It's the interesting thing that happened on the way to the forum. Anyway, my gorgeous spirits. I mean, the most intense accountability partner for life that you could possibly imagine. Girls hearing voices, she cray, woo! I am more peaceful within myself. Whatever this video is titled, know that what I myself wanted to title it was, I found peace, and then it got louder. So, but then you are conscious all of the time, and that doesn't go away anymore. It was in my bones, it's in my cells, like the awakening had happened right around now.